I'm Edith Bowman and I'm on a quest to crown the greatest album ever since the birth of music television in 1981, so don't go wondering where the Beatles are. Now, we're not just going to give you a list of music you think you should like, but the classic, perfect records you actually do love and listen to. You'll see I'm joined by our lovely panel who know a thing or two about music. Let's the man responsible for giving 80s super producers Stock Aitken and Waterman their first UK #1. He's not backwards and coming forwards and will always be big in Japan. Welcome, Pete Burns.
Thank you.
So how many journos does it take to decide big stars?
Thanks very much. Pete, what do you think?
Well, I was going to ask how you could put it on and listen to it in its entirety.
Because I'm a music fan?
Yeah. I couldn't.
Why?
I just couldn't. The affectation of his vocals, lyrically.
Liam's and Noel's, or just Liam's?
I don't know which one's which.
Okay.
I don't know the difference. I just could not stand it.
You're too much Pete Waterman.
Chained to the mirror and the razor blade, and I think that's one of their lyrics, isn't it? Yeah, I thought that was quite witty, but that was about it. I just couldn't go with it.
Okay. Huey?
Written by John Lennon.
Oh, nice. Pete?
Yeah.
The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars by David Bowie.
Aha for me. What's your take on the album?
I think it's a very good album. It is authentically old sounding, and it's very interesting to see a female actually write their own stuff. It's a winner as far as I'm concerned.
Classic album in your eyes?
Classic album, yeah, I go as far.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, but join that kind of more rewarding almost. Pete, are you a fan of?
No, because it just made me feel sad. I'm not criticising their work or saying it's substandard. Music has an emotional effect on people, and certain chord structures and things make you feel sad.
Well, I mean, you know, different people approach
music. It isn't D minor though, the saddest of all keys though.
D minor,
yeah, it is.
I have an aversion to certain chord structures. I do. It does, but it does affect mood, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, absolutely.
But there are times when it's right to listen to.
Well, not for me.
Okay.
I don't like to be made to feel that way by music. I like music to make me feel happy or make me laugh or something. All of my criticisms are only levelled from my own point of view. I'm not criticising it. It probably is one of the greatest albums of all time, but I don't feel qualified to actually stand up and fight for it.
Yeah.
I don't care.
You're cool, man. You're right on.
Oh, thank you.
Speak your mind, man.
Yeah, well, that's what it's about. That's, you know, everyone has a different opinion. There's 5 of us here, and we all like music.
I think I was a music fan before I went to work with Stock Aitken Waterman. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but they were so brutal. They
ripped the music out of your soul.
Well, yeah, because you put something on, they say crap. They just dismiss things so quickly, and I got very much into that mentality as well.
Being in this business can harden you because you know if you're in music all the time, you know sometimes you don't want to have music on at home.
It's a filthy job, isn't it? It's soul destroying.
I'm jaded.
You're jaded. Hey, everyone's jaded every now and again.
If you're jaded, God help me.
Hey guys, we're only on album.
We're only on album. We've got 20 more to go. Continuing the anti-consumerism. What do we think? Morrissey, the most interesting songwriter of his generation?
Well, I knew him personally. That's how I came to get familiar with his music. He actually gave me a copy of this album.
Wow.
And it was the first Smiths album that I'd actually listened to, and I loved it from track 1. He sings his life. I think he does it very well.
What's he like?
Really difficult, awkward. He stopped talking to me over a fur coat. Because I had a fur coat. He said, if you ever wear that again, I'll never talk to you again. So I did wear it again. He never spoke to me again. And to this day, he holds a grudge that I actually wear fur and things like that. But if that's the way he wants to be, that's fine. It doesn't stop me appreciating him as an artist. I think he's very important in his place.
He'll probably write a song about it. Or maybe he already has. Peter, what about you? What about Smiths for you?
I just think of Morrissey kind of lyrically.
People can't take him, can they? They think he's depressing, whereas I think he's funny.
Yeah, really funny.
Okay, so now to Morrissey at his most poignant from the Queen.
And you know, every day is like Sunday and all that. Oh, isn't it? But actually, you know,
there's a lyric in "The Queen is Dead." Oh, Charles, don't you ever crave to appear on the cover of the Daily Mail dressed in your mother's bridal veil? Vicar in a tutu, stuff like that. There's some great humour in there. I really get his humour. People think you're being miserable, but you're not really. It's not humour that translates that well.
And as you mentioned, that kind of brilliant. The Human League, massively influential, would you say so, Pete?
Without doubt, massively influential. This album, it made me feel happy.
good. Do you remember from when it was out?
Well, it was inescapable in the 80s. I probably really loathed it in the 80s because it was all I ever heard was the Human League's album. It actually sounds better today to me than it did then.
Still relevant today?
Yeah, still very relevant today.
Should we talk about the Human League? Purple Rain at number 3 in our greatest albums ever. Pete, are you a Prince fan?
Not a Prince fan. I'm not a fan of anybody in particular, but this album is a very impressive album. When it came out, I saw the movie, I bought the album, I played it a lot. He's very unique. I've seen him play live a lot of the time. I have a lot of respect for what he actually does. Everything that Huey said I agree with, but it's a very unique album. It's a great album.
I remember there was a Get Me Emotionally, no.
Pete, does it get you emotionally?
It's a great piece of work, but it's just not something that I could tolerate.
That was number 2, which means standing the test of time, influential, the amount it sold, it's deserving of number 1.
Perfect album. Not a fan of it myself. It didn't particularly do anything for me, but it's a perfect album. It's bland. It sold absolutely millions. Everybody loved it. I don't own it. I've never put it on.
Why do you think it's bland?
I just think it's sickeningly bland.
The thing I like about this record is Quincy Jones, obviously everybody knows Quincy Jones, put this record together and then kind of co-opted Michael Jackson into doing it. So it was kind of like already done in a sense, and then he said, Michael Jackson did things. And it was the one that kind of like pushed him out there in front as not one of the guys from Jackson 5, but like
I find Michael Jackson much more interesting than any of his albums.
Yeah, that's true.
I've heard this album so many times in different people's homes and things like that. I've heard enough of it. Do I think it deserved number 1? Well, I guess so if you're going on volume of sales, but personally I'd have preferred Purple Rain to be number 1. It's not just
volume of sales. You preferred
Purple Rain to be number 1 because it was more unique.
Peter?
Well, I was in the kind of judging panel for this, and we were trying to figure out what
it's you.
What order they and it's difficult because on one hand we wanted to kind of resist the inevitability of Thriller being the best album of all time because people keep saying it's the best album of all time, but even though some things sometimes sound bland, I think it's just because we hear them so much, and the reason we hear these songs so much is because everyone plays them and wants to play them so much.
Exactly.
And you can't mark something down for that in its the biggest artist studio album of all time. Or how many songs are it were singles? It's 7 out of 9.
Again, but we're going back to sales, aren't we? It's like how many did it sell? How many did it sell?
Just the way it's kind of influenced so many different types of musicians. Even it's kind of endlessly kind of homaged and parodied and referenced, and songs are covered and sampled. From kind of Thriller to Billie Jean. These songs are kind of everywhere, and they feel like they're kind of the part of people really sometimes. So. Although it's inevitable that it would be the best album of all time, that wasn't a reason to make it that.
Did London Calling come up in the argument at all?
Too early, unfortunately.
There you go.
Okay.
Listen, thank you all very much. I'm about to leave you guys with another massive hit from our number 1 greatest album ever, Thriller, which means I have to say bye-bye.